Born on September 24th, 1939, Patrick Kearney did not get off to the best start in life. Early on, Kearney grew up being the oldest of three brothers. His father was a strict cop and his mother was overprotective and stayed at home. His parents got divorced and he was always a main target for all of the bullies in school. He started elementary school in Montebello, California, where the bullying began. He was a very thin and sickly child who was teased for being too feminine and was also called a queer boy throughout his years in school. He was extremely short and had thick Coke bottle glasses that made him look a little bit odd.
Although he was never medically diagnosed with any mental disorders, there was definitely something wrong in his brain. At age 8, Kearney began to have thoughts of killing and violence. A couple years later, his father introduced him to guns. Together they would kill pigs with a .22 caliber rifle. After he would mutilate the poor animals, he would roll around and play in their blood and guts. He was a very troubled child, and events early on in his life led to early thoughts of killing and other disturbing actions. For example, he started to have sexual thoughts. His first sexual encounter was with their family dog. Although this is very concerning and odd, his father was a strict man who pretended his family was perfect and nothing was wrong. Therefore, the issue was never really addressed well enough.
He was born in Los Angeles and then his family moved to Texas. Later on in life, he moved to Arizona and then back to California. Moving around a lot could have also contributed to the hectic and withdrawn childhood. There was never any stability or consistency in his life, and every time they moved, he would continue to get bullied in every school. Similar to other serial killers such as Randy Kraft and William Bonin, Kearney tried to hide his homosexuality and would deny any sexual contact with boys until he was older.
Kearney was extremely intelligent and reportedly had an IQ of 180. When Kearney moved back to California, he attended El Camino Community College in Torrance, California. After college, he went into the Air Force and was stationed in Texas. There, he met his friend and soon-to-be lover, David Hill. After being honorably discharged from the Air Force, Kearney moved back to Long Beach, California with Hill. Tensions rose between the couple, and Hill left Kearney to hitchhike and eventually reunite with his wife, Linda.
In 1962, at age 22, Kearney killed his first victim. He was an unidentified 19-year-old male who decided to take a ride with Kearney on his motorcycle. Kearney shot him in the head, and afterwards he sexually assaulted the body and mutilated it as well. Later on in the year, he claimed his second victim, who was also the cousin of the first victim. Kearney decided to kill him because he saw his cousin take a ride with Kearney and never return. This victim was a 16-year-old male. Shortly after, during the same year, Kearney killed his third victim, an 18-year-old male named Mike. All of his victims were killed and sexually assaulted the same way. They were disposed of on the sides of the road, canyons, rivers, and valleys. The mutilated bodies were in trash bags and/or big drums.
David Hill divorced his wife, Linda, and returned to California to move in with Kearney. In the beginning of January 1963, Kearney finally found a steady job as an engineer at Hughes Aircraft and was shortly promoted to senior research assistant. Kearney and Hill then moved to Culver City, California in 1964. In June of 1967, Kearney and Hill drove to Mexico to meet up with an old friend. Later in December, Kearney murdered this friend and sexually assaulted the body as well. In 1969, the couple purchased the Robinson residence from Reed Wilson Realty, and this was one of the locations where a lot of murders occurred. David Hill left Kearney, and this angered him very much. Killings elevated and lasted until 1977. Kearney's last victim was named John Otis LeMay.
LeMay was a friend of Kearney's, and his last known whereabouts were when he was on his way to Kearney's house. Kearney killed him, and due to the fact that he wasn't seen again, police went to Kearney's residence to question him. Police searched his house and were surprised at the fact that he was extremely cooperative. After coming up short on evidence to arrest Kearney, police left the house. Kearney fled and traveled to Texas, Arizona, and New Mexico.
After Kearney had fled for a significant amount of time, he decided to turn himself in the police station. He was indicted on the murders of three men named Albert Rivera, Arturo Marquez, and John LeMay. He admitted to the murders of 28 more men and was again very cooperative with the police. On December 21st, 1977, Kearney pleads guilty and is sentenced to life in prison. He told the police that Hill had absolutely nothing to do with any of the murders and he did not know that it was going on. Hill was released free of charge.
The names of Kearney's known victims are as follows: Mike, last name not listed; George, last name not listed; John Demenchek, James Barwick, Ronald Dean Smith Jr., Albert Rivera, Larry Gene Walters, Robert Benefiel, Kenneth Buchanan, Oliver Molitor, Larry Armendariz, Merle Chance, Michael McGee, Johnny Woods, Tony Stewart, Larry Ipsy, Mark Orack, Wilfred Faraday, Randall Lawrence Moore, Timothy Ingham, David Allen, Arturo Marquez, Nicholas Jimenez, John LeMay, and 3 other victims that were never identified. All of these men were shot in the back of the head, sexually assaulted, mutilated, dumped in trash bags, and disposed of. Kearney got the nicknames of the trash bag killer and also the freeway killer due to his methods of killing and disposing of his victims.
From very early on, Kearney had a bad life. The bullies that teased him throughout school obviously stuck with him because it was inferred that his victims were based on images from his childhood. All of the men that he killed were known to be jock-like and bigger. These innocent men triggered a precursor in Kearney's brain and took him back to when he was bullied. Many serial killers have circumstances such as these, and unfortunately it led to the killing of way too many innocent victims. Patrick Kearney is currently 78 years old and will be in prison for the rest of his life.